You spoke a lot about acting as if, and I'm
Yes.
curious about something that I know I've experienced, and maybe some of our attendees have experienced, is that when you're acting as if, what do you do when you begin to maybe encounter that little bit of fear that comes up, or maybe it's an uncomfortable feeling of doubt? What can they do to overcome that in the moment?
Well, fear is simply imagining something bad happening in the future. So if you start to feel the fear, again, it's a mindset issue of going and saying, okay, what if it did work out? What would it look like? What if they did like it? What if they did give me a standing ovation? What if they did hire me? What if they did like me? And self-doubt, again, is a mental process of imagining not getting it, not being worthy of it, etc. So whatever that doubt is, replace it with certainty. And it takes practice. It's not something that happens overnight. There's this 30-day principle that we talk about. I know when I started visualizing making $100,000 a year, when I was making $8,000 a year, I would have all those doubts come up, but I would then just go to my affirmation. I'm so happy and grateful I'm earning $100,000 a year. And then I would imagine the lifestyle I would have if I had that, what would I buy? Where would I live? What would I do? And those are natural things that are going to come up. Just like when you go on a trip, you're going to see stop signs, you're going to see caution signs. So think of the doubts and the fears as caution signs, not stop signs. So imagine they're saying, okay, keep driving, keep doing the work. And it will take about 30 days. I remember I was in a shower after 30 days of visualizing. I had a $100,000 bill I put on the ceiling. I made it up and just put it up there to remind myself. And then I would repeat my affirmation. I'd go take a shower. Nothing happened for 30 days. Literally about a month into it, I started having these ideas that would generate $100,000 a year. I had this book. And if I sold 400,000 copies of that book, because I was getting 25% royalty, I would sell, I get 100,000. I started having ideas about how to raise my speaking fee, how to get more speaking, et cetera. So 30 days, very critical. And if you miss a day, the next day is day one again. That's a very important concept in neuropsychology, is that when I'm doing any kind of activity, whether it's practicing basketball shots, whatever, 30 days in a row, and then it locks in new neural pathways in the brain are actually created. You have new pathways that get thicker. The neurons actually get thicker, and therefore, it's like a fire hose. They can hold more water, if you will.
Of that. So yeah, it's natural. It's part of the process. It's just keep doing that consistently. And when you feel those come up, just know that it's the, hey, keep going sign. Hey, you're on the right track, and keep at it.
That's right. If they didn't come up, you're not doing enough work. Meaning, if you're not having fears and doubts, that means you're not stretching enough.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. And one of the other things that I'm curious about is oftentimes I hear people talk about different myths that surround success and the law of the attraction. What are some of the most popular myths that you have heard around success and the law of attraction?
Well, I think the only myth I hear is that people don't believe in it and they don't think it'll work. It's like, oh, that can't possibly be, or I've tried it and it did, like for 10 days or 20 days and it didn't happen,
Mm-hmm.
Basically, again, I think the reason people don't get results is negative beliefs that it doesn't work or I'm unworthy, and also not persisting in it long enough. That's a real thing. And fear. I mean, the things you mentioned come up. Fear comes up, doubt comes up, and if you let fear and doubt run you, then you're screwed. And so again, the discipline. I'll share a quick story with you. One of the books I mentioned that I wrote a foreword to was called "The Homeless to Billionaire," and this guy Andres Pira went from Sweden down to Thailand, got about a $2,000 gift when his grandfather died and wanted to go where it was warm, didn't like Sweden cold, and he ended up broke. He's on the beach, sleeping on a beach towel. His suitcase is his pillow, and he calls a friend and says, he actually texted him, said, will you send me $100? And this guy said, why would I send you $100? You weren't that good a friend. He said, but I'm going to send you a book. And he sent him the text of The Secret. And it said, visualize what you want. And he thought it was a bunch of BS. Then he said, well, I'm just sitting here doing nothing. Why not at least try it? So he visualized a cup of coffee. And he said, I'm going to feel how warm it would feel in my hand. I'm going to smell it. Oh my God, it's so great. drink it, feel the warmth go into my mouth, down my throat, and feel that caffeine rush go through my body. And he did that for about 5 minutes. And a couple of days later, this guy comes over and wakes him up. He says, I have the jet ski concession over. I noticed you've been sleeping under this palm tree. And I just thought I'd buy you a cup of coffee this morning. And he goes, oh my God, does this really work? And so he says, let's try a meal. So he visualizes a meal with, because he was eating noodles every day for 25 cents worth of noodles. And he visualized a steak and having vegetables and mashed potatoes and dessert and all that. And a few days later, this guy walks down the beach, says, are you from Sweden? He says, yeah, I think I was in your high school. What's your name? He says, Andres Pira. That's right. I think you're a year behind me. He said, let me buy you lunch. All of a sudden, he's eating a steak and getting all his. So now he says, wow. So now he starts saying, I want a job. So he starts visualizing having a job. He gets a job leading people into this condo conversion things, where you can timeshare. And so he gets the job. Then eventually he ends up selling someone a timeshare, and he gets hired as a salesperson. And anyway, he goes on. He eventually visualizes building the buildings that people are timesharing, and he started being a contractor. He's now worth $3 billion, so almost a billionaire. But the point being, it works if you work it, but you have to work it. But if you believe it's not going to work, it won't work. So that's what stops us, is the beliefs and the fears.
Yeah. And it works at whatever stage of life that you're in. Like you said, I love that example. Someone who's homeless, living on the beach, okay, I'm going to start with a cup of coffee. Hey, it works. I'm going to start with something and just keep building upon that and bring it all back around.
Exactly. You build up your beliefs small. You don't have to start with $1 billion building that own when you were homeless. But yeah, just little steps. And the funny thing is, you'd be surprised. I use an example. My wife, she's married to a multimillionaire. She didn't have to go out and do little steps. She just married me. It all came with it. So you never know what could happen. You could end up being. I have a friend who got hired by a billionaire to be his personal shopper. So whenever he wants something, he just says, oh, go buy me a motorcycle. Go find the best of this and buy me that. He says, oh, and buy one for yourself. It just, all of a sudden he's living in this millionaire life. And he just got to do it. So a lot of times we can't see how it's going to happen, but it happens in miraculous ways.
Yeah. It's about knowing what you want and being open to it, and then following the steps in the practice regularly and routinely.
What'll happen, and I'm glad you brought this up, what'll happen is that you'll start to get intuitive insights of actions you should take. And another thing that stops people from getting what they want is they get this intuitive thought, oh, I had to go to that Starbucks instead of that one. I had to call that person. Well, they would never say yes. So they don't do the things that occur to them. And when you're visualizing and affirming, you're going to start getting ideas of things to do. When you're dreaming, when you're taking a shower, when you're driving to work, when you're walking along, putting on your makeup. We call it hands busy, mind free. You have to act on those. So for me, the idea of selling 400,000 copies of my book, I didn't know how to do that. But I started asking people, how do you sell more copies of your book? And eventually we sold enough that I made 92,000 that year. I didn't make 100, but from 8,000 to 92,000. My wife said, that's great. Do you think it'll work with 1 million? I said, I don't know. Let's try it. And we did. And I can often will show a check in my presentations of $1 million written to me by a publisher. So it took a few years to get there, but it happened.
Awesome. So yeah, following those little intuitive nudges, as we'll call them, to be able to know, okay, I don't have to know it all, but that little nudge says, maybe this is my next step. This is the next thing I need to follow. Go to the Starbucks across the street instead of the one right here, whatever that is, to just pay attention to those little signs that help us along the way.
Exactly. And we're constantly getting those little nudges, but most of us ignore them. And so we have to learn to trust our intuition, trust the guidance that we get. And sometimes someone will recommend a book. That book has the solution that we need. So if you feel like, yeah, maybe I should read that, then go ahead and do it.
Breadcrumbs from the universe, as I like to call them.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Well, Jack, thank you so much. It has been an incredible pleasure to have you with us today. Just absolutely wonderful. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Wish you all the best.